'cause there's a new game in town. It's time to excite at the roll of the dice. With friendship comes epic wins and defeats. It's a land of adventure with board.
Hey guys, welcome to the wrap-up to Season 1 of Board, right here on Board, the show on YouTube. Of course, welcome the co-host and co-executive producer of the show, Mr. Dan Erdley.
What's up?
And our good friend, behind-the-scenes camera operator, writer, and the controller and operator and voice of the one and only Puppet Devall, Mr. Dave Draper.
Yay.
Got it there?
Got it.
You know what's funny is Dave is actually, you know, when we started to watch back a lot of the footage, he and I, as I was editing the show, we would watch him performing Puppet Devall, and Dave would just be like, I'm actually really good at that.
I'm actually not bad.
He's like, I'm actually pretty good at that. Again, welcome to the wrap-up. The show's just a special kind of a little look behind the scenes, a chat between Dan, Dave, and myself to you, the viewers, about how the show's made, you know, why we created the show, how it started. I couldn't get that sentence out. It was right there, and it just didn't want to come out. This wouldn't be any type of video if I didn't screw up at least once in grammar.
That's true.
Stop nodding your head, Puppet Devall. It's horrible. But this has been the first season. I think it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to film. A heck of a lot of fun to edit, because when I'm sitting by myself with my headphones on editing and I have to stop because I'm laughing out loud. It's been such a fun show, and the viewers, the fans, they really like attached onto it. And you know, we saw early on as the show was starting, you know, the first couple weeks, you'd start to see comments on YouTube about, you know, fathers and sons and mothers and sons, mothers and daughters, like kids and families watching the show together on Saturdays and using it to find new games to play on their family game nights, which I think is pretty spectacular. I know you and I had discussions about taking the show kind of in the same, you know, doing it in the same vein to a degree as that new Toy Smell, where it was you and I just, you know, being goofy and, you know, like we did on that new Toy Smell, introducing odd things that no one had ever seen. You know, I think early on people were like, are you going to review Monopoly or Life? And I'm like,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't see the reason for that. Why would we do that? I think it's way more fun finding random, obscure stuff, especially when it's like games based on properties that we grew up with. You know, like maybe you didn't know that there was a board game for GoBots, and we found it and we put it on the show. That stuff was way more exciting to me. Like, everybody knows Monopoly and Life and Connect 4 and, you know, the typical games, and I just can't imagine making that fun and entertaining for a video.
Especially if, you know, like when you said everyone's played Monopoly, it's like you would watch Danny and I play Monopoly and explain it. Although I don't even know if we'd be able to explain it, because does anyone really know how to play Monopoly?
Everybody's got their own like house rules and everything for Monopoly. Yeah, they got their own ways to play it.
It's like, no, you can't pass go. And it's like, what's happening?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's not even really like, I almost wouldn't even consider this to be like a review show. I mean, we're kind of like explaining the game and everything, but it's more about having fun and just being goofy and showing off these wacky games from, you know, days gone by. I think that's kind of the focal point of this show.
Yeah.
So.
I would describe it more as an overview show than a review show. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, here's the game, here's how it works, and then there's a little review at the end, but it's more of an overview about, hey, here's this game, and here's how it works, and here are the pieces, and...
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's been the most fun. I think I had a couple people, you know, have asked, how did the show start? And the show actually started in an iteration, started years ago when Dan was doing still is, but in the early days of From Pixels to Plastic, you were doing, I'm trying to think of what the very first one that you did. Was it Donkey Kong?
Donkey Kong. I did the Donkey Kong board game was first, the Legend of Zelda board game. I've done the Pac-Man board game, the Q*bert board game, the Popeye video game board game. I did a lot of video games board games based on video games, because I thought that was bizarre.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they've translated an old Nintendo or an old arcade game into a board game, that's always been fascinating to me, which is why I made that one of my focuses in From Pixels to Plastic. And those were, still to this day, are some of my most popular videos. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the episode I did on the Pac-Man board game is my most watched video on my YouTube channel.
Which is crazy. Out of everything you've done over the years, it's like, between that new toy smell, everything else, the Masters, the Universe Classics reviews, all that, that's still the most viewed video.
One. It's crazy. So that's kind of where it always started, you know, like when I started doing From Pixels to Plastic, I knew I just wanted to be open and broad about it. I didn't want to just focus on said action figure, you know? And I think just anything, that show was supposed to be about anything that was spawned from a video game. And then, of course, that show grew into pretty much everything else we started doing because I wanted to get beyond the video game thing, and that's when everything else happened.
Yeah,
so.
that's when it all evolved.
Yeah.
And now, of course, with board, it's evolving further. I mean, you know, a lot of the jokes in the show actually come from Dan's early videos From Pixels to Plastic.
Yeah.
That was a continuity thing that I personally wanted to keep because I thought that was always a funny. Just a funny hallmark of that show is the fact Dan never lost, and Dan got hurt at the end of every episode.
Yeah, every time. Well, like a lot of the board game episodes were with me and my wife, before she was my wife.
Yes, before my wife.
Which is crazy because we've been married for 5 years now.
I know,
so
right?
That shows you how long we've been doing this.
Yep.
It's weird to think about. But yeah, because several of the board game episodes, the Donkey Kong one, the Pac-Man one, gosh, I can't even remember which other ones, but there were several episodes I did with Christina, and we always did the joke where I beat her, and I rubbed it in her face, and like, you know, the first time she just slapped me in the face and walked off camera, which got a chuckle out of the audience. And then, you know, I started upping the ante after every one, so like I'd win again, and then one time we got into like she slapped me, and I punched her in the face as a retaliation, and then we got into like a big fight across the living room. It turned into like this big ridiculous fight scene for no reason, you know? Like I did a lot of goofy things like that, and it was always really funny, and it was like the running gag in all of my board game episodes, and I even did it in the Zelda one that had you on there, because I brought you in for the Zelda episode.
Yep. I ended up knocking you out at the end of
it. Yeah, you, like, I won, and I gloated, and then you jacked me in the jaw, and I got knocked out, and you left. That was the end of the episode, so... yeah, it's fun, and that's exactly where that came from. Yeah. It's an old running gag from Pixels to Plastic. Look, everything we're doing can be traced back to From Pixels to Plastic. Yes. Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
It's
weird. All traced back to one show at one point in time when it all evolves from that into it branches out into so many different other things.
Cool.
That new toy smell, I mean, all the reviews that we do, the style that we use, it all evolved from you doing that one show.
That's crazy.
Which is pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Dave and I owe you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean that was the genesis for this show. That was one of the first things that I wanted to do was, and I think we talked about it early on, was I'm like, I never want to win a game. I always want to lose. You always have to win, and you always have to gloat, and something has to happen to you every episode.
Yep.
And it always has to end with you something horrible happening to you.
Right. I like it. It's just a fun running gag, and you know, it's goofy.
Well,
and I know that I think it's funny that like the comments we get sometimes too.
Where
people are like questioning why you're hitting me all the time.
What did Dan do to deserve that?
Yeah.
Dan, he's just Dan.
I feel like people sometimes forget that this is like totally a scripted thing.
Oh
like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
We're doing it on purpose. You know? It's all for comedy, and if you don't think it's funny, we do. So deal with it, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know, and it's one of those things. I always see people like rooting for you to win now, which is good. That's awesome. But that's definitely something I think we would have to save for a special occasion.
That
I
mean,
Dave and I describe it like Charlie Brown in the football.
Yeah,
he will never kick the football.
Yeah,
you know?
Because once Deval wins, that ruins the gag.
That ruins the gag.
The gag's over at that point.
And,
you know.
And Dave and I had talked about that. The only time that I would ever win would probably be the very last episode of this show. That's the only way that would ever work.
It would have to be the final episode.
Yeah. So. And it would have to go out with like...
so you guys shouldn't be rooting for Deval to win, because then you're rooting for the final episode.
Then you're rooting for the show to end. And where's the fun in that? We were just now gearing up for season 2. You don't want it to end now. We're not even to the good stuff yet.
That's funny.
And of course... whoa.
Hey, your light's buzzing.
My light's buzzing. That's awesome. And of course, Puppet Devall... actually evolved from, who actually has a ton of fans.
It's so
like
weird.
this little store-bought puppet that I've had in my possession now for close to 25 years.
Which, by the way, long before we were ever doing anything video-wise, I used to play with this thing constantly.
Yeah, because
every time I was over at Jason's house, I'd pick up this stupid puppet and start playing.
Well, and we lived together for a long time. We had an apartment together, and Dan would be running or like playing with it, running around the house.
Yeah, this is sort of one of those things that's just been around. It got brought into videos because it's been a part of, I guess, our friendship or whatever. Like, it's always been around.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that just kind of got brought in. And I still remember the day, because you brought it on camera for the Muppets episode.
It was for the Muppets episode of That New Toy Smell, the very first Muppets episode we did.
And I didn't even know you were going to do it. You just showed up with it. And I was like, what are you doing with that thing? And you told me what you were going to do. And I was just like...
Well, Dave and I talk about it. If you go back and watch that old episode of That New Toy Smell, which you can still find on Dan's Blip TV account, it's still there. It's still on the Blip account. If you go back and find that Muppets episode and you watch Dan's reaction while the puppet's on there, you can literally see just Dan's sheer... He just hates every second of it.
Yeah, I mean, and it was great. But that's the thing; it was such great video.
Yeah,
it was.
I was like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, exactly. You had this disgusted look on your face, and you were just so unhappy to be there at that moment. But it was like beautiful to watch, and it was amazing video, and it was great. And people afterwards like, did he really hate the puppet? Like, oh no, he was really unhappy to be there with the puppet.
And it's not that I hated the puppet. I guess I don't know. Like,
there was stuff going on. But it translated into amazing video.
Sometimes Jason shows up and he has these ideas he thinks is really funny, and I don't always think that those ideas are funny.
Sometimes they work out.
And sometimes I agree to do them, which was this case here, and I wasn't happy about agreeing to do it. But you know what? It turned out fine.
I mean,
like everybody else loved it, and I mean, I'm not right about everything all the time.
Well, as soon as we did that, he started getting fan art.
Yeah.
I mean, my Twitter avatar is
victory for you.
Yeah, that idea worked out well.
That was one of your ideas that worked.
But I mean, look where it's come. I mean, the fact that we made the decision to make him a big part of the show because we had to figure out a fun way to get the board games at the start of the show, and we couldn't figure out any other way other than that would be goofy. Because the whole point of the show is it's a goofball show. I mean, it really is just there's nothing serious about this show in any way, shape, or form. It's all just as goofy as we can be, showing these amazingly goofy, sometimes really quirky and awesome games. And we thought the goofiest thing we could do was Puppet Devall living in a closet upstairs, and he guards all the games, and he has to give us a game every episode. And this, I mean, look what it's brought us. I mean, you got drove off at the end of the season finale by Puppet Devall.
That was so funny, and that scene just turned out so great too.
It did. Like,
it was hilarious.
Filming it was a little stressful because
I was going to say Dan wasn't happy about filming it.
Because that was really my car, and that was my new car that I just bought.
And you have to understand that during the filming of that, Danny's in the passenger seat. I am in the driver's seat with my hand on the bottom of the steering wheel with the puppet up above me, and I'm laid back as far as I can, so I can't see where I'm driving.
You can see where he's going.
So I'm just hoping that I'm going in a straight line, and Dave's over there
I'm running the camera, and I'm watching traffic, and literally at one point it was like, car!
Game off!
Yeah. It was awesome.
But it worked.
It did. It worked great.
It's
worth it in the end.
Yes. I think that's been one of the most stressful things about the show is the fact that we made the decision, with That New Toy Smell, it was, pretty much us shot. Every once in a while we would use another camera angle when we were showing toys. The reviews, everything was just like, one shot, boom. And this we made, I made the decision to do it as multi-shot. Like, there's so many setups. Which, for those of you who don't understand what that means, it literally is tearing the lights down, setting them up, changing the camera, changing the lighting, and shooting the same scene multiple times. I mean, a lot of the closet scenes we shot from the side, from the back, from the front. I mean, just the same scene over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it was very stressful, I think, for everybody involved because it's the first time we've ever done anything like that to this degree. I mean, I think you've kind of fiddled with it a little bit here and there. But never to this extent that, really, literally, there were like, I think in the first episode we shot, you count the camera switches, and there's probably 10 or 12 different setups just in the cold opening.
And that's the downside of being guys that just have one camera to use for everything. You know, it's not like we have several cameras set up getting multiple shots of the same scene that we can flip between depending on how we want the scene to look. Like, we have to redo our takes over and over again until we get several shots that are good looking, so that when it's time to edit, it can be decided, okay, which one works best for the scene. And you know, it's crazy. It's a lot more work here, and that's definitely something Deval deserves all the props for, because he's doing all the editing work on this show, because I ain't nobody got time for that.
Dan ain't got time. Dan's barely got time to do this.
Ain't nobody got time for
we got to figure out how Dan's going to do the Christmas episode. That's how much time Dan doesn't have.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, but yeah, no, and I think that was the only way I could get Dan on board for the show. Believe it or not, Danny wanted to do it, but he's like, I don't have the time. He's like, when am I going to have the time to do that?
When you came to me and said, let's do this board game show we'd always kind of talked about doing, I was just like, I can't commit to that.
Yeah.
Like, I have no time. Like, I have my own deadlines I got to meet and everything. And so it was one of those things where Jason was finally like, well, I'll do all the editing. You just show up and I'll film you, and I was like, all right, fine, let's do it.
I was like, monkey, show up, perform, go home. I'll do the rest of it.
I was like, I can handle that. Let's do that.
Of doing the whole show was trying to make sure that we consistently had the same shirts on and the same outfits.
That was man, because we for people that they don't really understand, because you put out together basically a shooting schedule for this.
Yes.
And we had everything worked out before the season started, what games you were doing and your release dates for everything.
Yes.
We tried to structure it as best we could so that we weren't scrambling to get things done at the last minute like we had always done in the past. So when we got together for shooting days, we had to bring 4 sets of clothes with us. And every time it was time to film a new take, it's like, what shirt was I wearing last time?
Yes.
I got to change my clothes again.
Change your shirt again.
And we had to do that, all day long. We were just changing clothes. It was nuts.
And the hard part of keeping that all together was the fact that of course, we don't film all of this in one day. It's over the course. I think season 1 we filmed over the course of probably 10 days, 12 days?
I would say probably about a week and a half, maybe about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Probably it took us all together, but not consecutively.
No.
We got together for a couple days at a time, and then we would come back in for
a month and a half later.
Yeah,
we started filming this show in early summer, I think, very early summer, and of course it premiered in September, so it was maybe June-ish we started shooing. And we were shooting all the way up until the week before the finale. We were shooting pickups, just shots we needed for the rest of this show up until that last week.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's always the stuff too where you always think you've got everything you need until you sit down to actually start putting it together, and then you're like, oh well, I need a new scene here, or I got to get a new shot
and that happened a lot with
you'd end up calling me and saying, hey, we got to redo this scene, or I need you to record this voiceover because now this doesn't make sense with the way it all put together. And that happens. That's just something you have to expect.
And a good example of that was when I had sat down, a month before the show premiered to edit the first episode. I realized there was a number of establishing shots that we didn't have, because in the early days of shooting, where the closet is upstairs, you actually walk through the office door and the closet's on your right, and we would shoot and just turn around and walk backwards. But then we were filming shots walking down the hallway where you could obviously see where the door to the closet was. So it's suddenly well, that's not going to work at all. We have to reshoot all of that.
Yeah, we shot those stupid... And then getting blinded by that light over and over again was god-awful. What we were saying earlier, this show's supposed to be goofy and campy and not at all serious. And if you just want to see the board game, skip to the part of the video where the board game starts. That's all I can really say about that.
Well, I think the great thing was, as the cold openings went on, we got a little bit more inventive with what we were doing.
Well, first of all, let's bring up the fact that almost every one of those cold opens was done on the fly.
Oh yeah, no, it was all improvised.
Those were completely improvised.
Yeah.
Jason came to me with the idea, which happened a lot at the beginning of the filming of this show. Hey, I want to do it like this. All right, cool. Tell me what to do. Well, I don't actually have anything written for that. And I'd go, oh, so we're just gonna make it up. So that's how the cold openings worked on almost every single one of them. He was like, we need to film 7 of these, but I don't know what to do. And so I was just like, all right, well, let's just figure stuff out. And that's I mean, we just kind of came up with things on the fly. My favorite one, of course, was the fob.
The fob puppet, which I think is everyone's here among the group. I think it's everyone's favorite.
I'm proud of that,
including my wife, because when she watched it, she just chuckle and shake her head, and it takes a lot to make my wife laugh out loud, and she'd start to laugh and go, "He's so funny," and I'm like, "I know, it's beautiful."
I was pretty proud of that one. That was my favorite. That's the car.
The car.
Yeah, the car. And that's, you know, and not that I didn't have some things in mind. Like the first few cold openings I had in mind, I knew how I wanted to open the show, how I wanted to start.
Well, like you got the roof one.
The roof one, I knew.
The roof one
was more of a test for me to see if I could actually do it. But yeah, a lot of those were just, I was going back to our days on that new Toy Smell, because people always said, even Dave himself has said many times, that you and I on camera together, 9 times out of 10 is gold. And there's something about...
You're welcome.
Wow.
But you guys do have a really good
ego pushing me
chemistry
out of camera.
and dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that goes back to just years of knowing one another, and you know, we lived together for a while, and that's just a lot of us playing off one another, because we have completely different sense of humors, I think.
I think so too.
And it's when we get together and do stuff on camera, it always seems to, you have this clash of styles that just seems to click so well. And it comes off really weird. It's really odd, because we shouldn't work on camera at all together. Period.
Well, no, but I mean that's you know, and I've talked to you about this. There is the traditional dynamic. It's, you know, the Laurel and Hardy, the Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin. You know,
yeah,
where there's kind of the straight guy who can still be kind of charming and funny, and then there's the lady with the shoes and the thing and the idiot.
Yeah, thank you.
Most of the
what is
the way you see us on camera is exactly the way it is off camera too. It's the way it's always been. We've always been very, I don't know, we're different, and the thing that's always kind of made us friends was the fact that we were the two toy collectors in our, you know,
in our group
of friends. That's like kind of that was the thing that Jason and I had in common. And that was almost it. You know what I mean? Like, we always had the toy thing going on. So
we had video games too.
Well, yeah, we like video games. We like Disney.
Wrestling.
Wrestling. Well, yeah, wrestling.
You're practically the same person.
We were actually talking about that on a podcast that we just recorded last night. Because wrestling's the thing that kind of brought all of us together in the first place. Like, my closest friends right now, I wouldn't have met if it weren't for the fact that we were all wrestling together. And that's how Jason and I met, and that's, you know, how that whole group kind of... That was the one thing that linked the whole group together, was wrestling.
Yes.
Because everybody in that group at that time was so different, but we all had wrestling.
Yeah.
And amongst that group, Jason and I also had toys. And that was kind of how this whole thing even started.
Exactly. I think it's been interesting to see Dave take over control of Puppet Devall, because, like, we talked about in the That New Toy Smell episodes, he actually had a voice. He actually talked, because it was me.
Well, yeah, in the first one, it was just you. It was literally Puppet Devall.
You just turned into a puppet.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, why are you a puppet?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then when Toy World Order started, I did a number of episodes with the puppet, like a number of reviews with the puppet, which were Toy Adventures with Deval.
Yeah.
And I did the puppet and the puppet voice. And then when we did this show, of course, the puppet needed to be on screen.
Well, what it was first, you were working on another show, which is still sort of in the works and still morphing, and you came to me and you said, you know, I want you to write some stuff with me and the puppet for the openings and stuff. And so I started working on them, and I wrote them, and you liked them, and as I was describing them to you, you know, I would literally sit there with my hand going, and then the puppet goes, "Wow!" Or, you know, the puppet's like, "Woo!" You know, and you're like, you're going to be the puppet on board.
Yes. It's like, you're
I remember we showed up the first day to film, and you're like, okay, you're the Puppet Devall. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Get down in the closet.
Yeah.
Get down in the closet, put the puppet on your arm.
Dave's completely unprepared.
Yes.
Dave, I need you to squat down on the floor in the closet and hold the puppet up as high as you can.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I'm back in the closet, and he's like, now I need the puppet at eye level for us, and he needs to be 5 feet out, and it's like, my arm.
At least Jim Henson got to, like, stand.
Yeah, there were sets.
They got to stand under a set. You have to sit on the ground.
I had to sit on the ground in the closet, which is filled with games, and we scoop out a tiny little portion I'm a big man, Deval.
I know.
I'm a big man.
It's not easy for Dave to get up and down off that floor. So once he's down, it's like, okay, we got to shoot all these now.
Let's get all these shots.
Yeah, because Dave's not going to get up and get back down. He will revolt.
And then the other thing was, like, even then, we didn't know. I didn't know that. Again, I came in to record our podcast, and you're like, "Oh, I need you to do the voice for Puppet Devall."
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Well, we didn't know he was. We at the time we were filming
because we're filming. I'm just like doing him like without making noise, and it became an issue in one episode. Because in one episode I did like
you made a noise.
Yeah, and you're like, I've never heard him talk before.
Really? Well, hey, I'd like to thank you for once again blinding me. It's always nice not being able to see things. So, thank you.
I don't think I've ever heard him speak. And I was like,
And it's like, okay, as we're dubbing his voice for the episodes later, I'm like, you realize he's been talking this whole time.
Continuity. Good job, Jason.
So there's actually a shot in that episode. I think Dave is right. It's like episode 5. And you actually pointed out because you're like, there was something weird about that.
Yeah, there's some weird thing about that episode where it goes quiet all of a sudden.
That's right. There's a shot of, you can see Danny from the side and me, and I turn at one point to look at Danny, and my face is hidden, but you can tell I'm still talking, and there's just no audio. Dan's like, what happened there? And I'm like, well, I made mention that Puppet Devall never made a sound. And, well, that's not right. And I had to do something.
Yeah, we tried editing it, and it did not work.
You should have voiced over something that you obviously weren't saying. I like cinnamon rolls. Just something like that.
Oh, look, it's Godzilla!
Godzilla! Oh, man. What was you guys' favorite games this season? Because I mean, of course, Dan and I played them all, and Dave played the final, but Dave got to see all the games pretty much. What was your favorite games from this season? I know what Dan's gonna say.
What am I gonna say?
Well, let's let Dave go first because I know where Dan's probably gonna go.
I don't know. Subsearch was cool. I like Price Property. I thought that was neat.
Price Property was a very interesting.
I thought that was cool. I love the concept of the little pieces over the board, and then as you're developing, you move them, and the board literally changes. And then, you guys had fun with that because it was like, oh my god, it's a meth farm on fire. It's like we're doing these people a favor.
Yes.
So I think that was probably the one that I kind of really, aside from the Raiders Lost Ark game that you stole from me.
I didn't steal.
Didn't steal.
Belongs in a museum, Dave.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Puppet Devall, don't agree with him. Stop it. Puppet Devall, what was your favorite game? I didn't understand a word of that. I don't understand Puppetese.
Puppetese. That's a language now.
Yeah, that's what every puppet speaks.
Mine actually, I think my favorite was GoBots. Because, and here's why. Here's why. It's not. That's why it's not the best game we played on the show. It's not by far the greatest game ever made. It's probably one of the worst games ever made. But the fact that literally when we filmed that, a lot of times when we film the show, Dan and I will film all the shots we need and then do the voiceover later, and I'll just edit it together. But that was one of the few games that we actually played through a whole game.
The first couple of games you played through. And then with GoBots, it was just you were just doing the playthrough, and it was like 2 moves later, you were done.
Yeah. Like twice in that episode, right?
Yep.
Like we flew through that game.
Go, cat, go.
I'm starting?
Yep.
1.
I'd say that's a 4.
You think it's a 4?
That was a 4 before you moved it.
All right.
There you go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Really?
That's a spin again.
No, that does. Dang it.
I'm gonna win this game right here. 1, 2, 3. Woohoo! I'm gonna win in 2 moves. Nope. 1. And I have to try to get a 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because was that a 4 that I?
Yep.
Yeah. So you got another chance to stop me. I win. Game over. I win. That's amazing. Well, let's get some shots of different things happening.
All right.
It was absurd.
It was ridiculous.
That game.
That is my favorite.
Overly simplified.
Yes.
It's obviously for little kids.
For little kids.
Yeah.
But that was the most fun for me to put together too, because it was cracking me up the fact that I'm like, he really won in 2 moves. That really happened.
That was legit.
We just left it
Can't
in.
make that stuff up.
No. God, no.
I would say the show is like 50% scripted and 50% just sort of magic happening on the set.
A lot
Really?
of the stuff, a lot of the stuff we're saying while we're playing is completely on the fly. Even the stuff at the end, like when you do whatever to me at the end of every episode, I never know what to expect. You just do it. You look around to find something. You can always see the gears turning in your brain, like, I gotta hit him with something, but I don't know what. And then it just happens.
I think only 2 episodes you knew what was going to happen to you. One of them was me hitting you with the giant Simpsons encyclopedia.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one was the Spy game, the bomb, because I told you, I'm like, open, we're going to do this, open this, and I'm going to hear, you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I think those are the only 2, but everything else, like me going up and getting the back scratcher and then scraping your eyes out, going to find the Rock Lord and hitting you with the Rock Lord.
Yeah, that's classic.
That's another classic, too. There's something else that happened in that new Toy Smell.
Yeah.
You get knocked out by toy rocks quite a bit.
I like rocks.
Rocks that transform
that turn into robots.
Things.
Yeah, or things, yeah. I like rock toys.
What was your favorite episode?
Well, mine is obviously the slime monster.
That's what I thought you were going to answer with.
But it's more so for the slime and the toys that are, the pieces are toys for that game. And that's why I like it so much. The gameplay itself isn't so hot because it was just, it was fine, but it's not anything that, like, that's another one that went really quick, I think.
Yeah.
And it's so messy. Because,
oh, yeah, that was the worst part about that game.
That's the appeal of it for the kids.
I know. Yeah,
the
absolutely.
creepy, scary, super happy 70s kids.
Yeah, I just remember, yeah, exactly.
There was a lot of that. That was one of the interesting sub-themes of the show, where all these old box art that had, and kind of like old toy boxes too, that have these like ridiculously enthusiastic, creepy kids on them going, I love this so much! I don't even want to eat anymore, I just want to play the game! It's crack!
The Slime Monster one was fun, and I'm still actually looking for one of those for myself ever since playing it, just because I want the pieces, man. And it's classic Mattel slime. Come on, Mattel slime is awesome. So that was a fun game. Bigfoot was surprisingly hilarious. So Bigfoot has to go down as the most classic episode from the season. I agree. That's what Dave was talking about, where that was just an episode where the magic happened.
Just magic.
We had no idea what we were going to do with that, and then we just started playing, and I just started making up a voice for Bigfoot. I didn't even I didn't think twice about it. I was just doing it. And then I remember Jason going, I'm going to animate the Bigfoot mouth because that voice is hilarious. And I was just like, okay, let's do it.
And that created a recurring character in the show.
Now Bigfoot.
Now Bigfoot's a part of the cast.
Games and kids. Well, yeah, that's one of those creepy boxes too.
Oh.
Like Bigfoot's just huddled up.
Bigfoot's just huddled over those kids, and it's
in
the
scariest
thing. Yes,
in the forest.
Out in the woods.
Why are those kids in the woods with Bigfoot playing a game?
Come to my home, play some games.
Why are there no parents? There needs to be a grown-up. Oh man!
And he's Bigfoot the snow monster.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
They just like Yeti Bigfoot, same guy.
Yeah, same thing. In the 70s, same thing. We'll just call it that. It'll be fine. And what's funny is, people have asked before, how long have you guys been planning this? This show's been planned for 2 years.
And the idea itself has seriously been like in the backs of our minds, going all the way back to those From Pixels to Plastic episodes. Because
8 years now, something like that?
Yeah, because it was just the same thing as when I decided I didn't want to just do video game toys and I spawned into other toys. I was like, what about all these board games that are based on, because if you go back and look, I did a video on one of the He-Man board games. And, I have done some of this stuff in the past. But it's just another one of those things where, I've always got, 1,000 ideas in my head of things I want to do, and I just don't have the time to do them all.
Yeah.
So it's been in the backs of our minds for a long time before he was finally like, why don't we just do it now? Let's just do it. Let's get it done.
Well, the early days of us talking and talking about a further working relationship between the sites, that was one of the first things we talked about was the board show. Let's do the board game show we've always talked about. And once we kind of hammered out all the details, and you were like, I'd be up for that. I immediately started, when we went to garage sales and flea markets, immediately started buying board games every chance I could. To the fact now there's probably 300-400 games.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous.
This show has turned him into a board game collector, which is kind of absurd when you walk in here and see a stack of board games from the floor that's like as tall as us, and you're just like, what did you buy and why did you buy all of these? Because this is like 8 seasons worth of board games right here.
When he says he's got seasons 2 and 3 planned out, he's not kidding.
Yeah,
he's working in his head about 4 and 5.
Yeah,
probably.
He's got way more board games than we'll probably ever get to.
Probably,
honestly.
Yeah.
So
probably. And I keep buying them. Like, I keep being told by the wife, no more board games. And I'm like, but it's $1 and it's complete. I have to have it.
They're
and
fun.
now people are sending me board games.
Oh, well, that happens.
We had a viewer and a fan send.
Why is anybody sending me a board game? Find me the Slime Monster game. Send it to me.
Oh, they're there, Dan. You'll find it one day.
I know, I'll find it.
I
almost found it once, but Dave bought it first.
Yes, it now resides in Dave's collection.
Yeah, Dave.
Because Dave and Dan both had the same idea of that slime monster's so
cool. So cool. It's such a neat little toy.
It is. It's a neat toy. I like to scare people too.
I think Dave's is setting up with his Ghostbusters figures.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that works. That's great.
We've got quite a few fan questions for the show.
Oh, sweet. Let's do it.
And I'll start it out here. Paula Sewell says, "Hi guys, huge fan of the show. My boyfriend and I watch every week, and I think my favorite board game that you've reviewed so far has to be Raiders of the Lost Ark."
Dave's Raiders of the Lost Ark?
My Raiders of the Lost Ark?
It's not Dave's Raiders of the Lost Ark. As you can't beat a bit of Indiana Jones. Great to see you guys having fun, and I've been totally inspired to get up in my parents' loft and hunt out some of my own old board games that I've been lurking there for 20 years. And here's a few pictures of some of the goodies I found. And of course, look, she found there's a My Little Pony game that I don't own. I don't know why I don't own that game, but I should.
Quit begging her for it. Stop.
And there's a game called Hedgehog's Revenge, the game where the hedgehog strikes back.
What?
I didn't realize hedgehogs were oppressed.
Sonic.
Oh, is it Sonic?
No, but it sure it's just
Sonic the Hedgehog is loosely based on this board game.
Yes. It's just a very simple game with little
weird.
cardboard
What's the cars
and trucks and the hedgehogs.
I'm confused.
I want to play it.
Yeah, that looks nuts.
I definitely want to play that.
Destination, insurance, revenge. Those are the cards.
It sounds like an ABC Friday night show.
Those are awesome.
Man. She says, I'm now on a mission to find and rebuy some of the board games that I had as a child but do not have now. And my ultimate find would be Ghost Castle by Milton Bradley Games, as that was so much fun, which Ghost Castle in the UK is actually Which Witch here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do you guys still have some board games that you had as children? And do you guys have particular board games that you loved as kids and are searching for now? Brilliant show. My love to Puppet Devall. Paula.
Where's my love?
I told you, Puppet Devall's got a legion of fans, dude. Legion. It's ridiculous.
Board games from when I was a kid, I do still have some. And one of them, at least, is going to be on an upcoming episode of Board. I'm really excited about it. I don't even know if I want to say it because it's one that I've been telling him forever. I'm like, I want to do a video on this. If we ever do a board game show, this is one of the ones I want to do just because I always really liked it when I was a kid. A lot of my board games I wish I did still have, but I think most of them were victim of the yard sales, the same yard sales I lost all my toys in.
All your Masters figures, too?
We had a bunch. I think there's still some over at my parents' house, probably, and I did bring some with me when I moved out. I've got, I still have my old Uncanny X-Men game where I had all those playing pieces.
Little playing pieces.
It was such a cool game. And I've got this game called the Omega Virus, which is another one that we should probably do on the show someday.
It's a very classic
very
80s
cool
electronic game.
Electronic game, talking game.
Yes.
Oh, so neat. But one of the things that my wife and I just recently started doing, and we kind of got the idea because we wanted to have some of those classic games that we had as kids for our nieces to play when they came over, but now we have more reason to do it since we've got a son on the way. We've started picking up a lot of the 80s versions of classic board games.
Oh, yes.
So we have the 80s version of Candyland. We have the 80s version of Hungry Hungry Hippo.
Yes.
And we've been doing that. And there's been certain games that we're like, if we find it and it's a good price and it's got all the pieces, we've been picking it up. And already every time my niece comes over, she wants to play Candyland with us, and we play Candyland with her. And so that's kind of been one of those things where we get online every now and then and we look and we see if we can find good prices, or if we're out at you know, I found most of these at like a yard sale.
Yeah.
And I got them for really cheap. And I was just like, that's the same one I had as a kid. I'm going to buy it because it's $1. And, you know.
What's going home with me?
It's a lot of fun. I think that's just a neat thing to have. And, you know, not that there's anything wrong with the current versions in the stores. It's just, you know, it's got the nostalgic connection for me, and I get to enjoy it with...
I like the art better than the old stuff. It's too slick and too produced now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Absolutely. The old art is awesome. One of the games that I really loved that I want to re-buy... the old version of is Kerplunk. I used to love Kerplunk as a kid, and my nieces actually have the newer version, which is way smaller than it used to be.
Really? Because it was a big game.
Yeah, and it's like tiny now.
Wow.
But I was playing it with them not too long ago, and I was just like, man, this game is still awesome. So it's one of the ones I'm going to find the original version
on the list.
Because I remember it being in a big box like this.
Yeah.
A tall box, because it was a huge long tube, and it had the little tray on the bottom and the little red sticks, and you fill it with the marbles.
Yep.
That was awesome. And another one that I loved, which isn't really a board game, it's more just a regular game, but you remember Crossfire?
Yes.
That's another one that like they eventually shrunk down, but the one I had
was huge.
I remember the box stood this tall off the ground, and it just, you pulled it out, and it was just this huge playing board that had guns on either side, and you shot those marbles back and forth at each other to like try to get the little spinny discs into each other's goals.
Yep.
Loved that game as a kid.
Good game.
So that's another one I wouldn't mind getting to play with my kid eventually when he's
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
What about you, Dave?
I've bought a couple that I had as a kid. Dark Tower is one.
Dark Tower.
The electronic D&D game, Dungeon. I have a few, not so much as when I was a kid, but when I was a teenager. I still have my Axis and Allies, which I've been lobbying for this show.
Yeah. Which we may do an Axis and Allies
Axis
episode.
and Allies?
Because we have a fun idea for that episode.
Okay. We have a cute idea for that.
All right.
And then Talisman is one that I played a lot in college, and I know some of our, I know a couple of our fans have actually said, yeah, do Talisman. So that's another one that I really love. But yeah, I've got like Axis and Allies and Fortress America and the third one that I always lose at. So Shogun. So I've got those. And then stuff like the Risk and Scrabble and Trivial Pursuit. Yeah, with a bunch of additions.
Cool.
I'd say the games that I still have from my younger years. I have my Hero Quest that I had. That I bought when it first came out in like 95, 96, maybe 94. I don't remember when that game first came out. I still have that, and I still have a couple of the VCR board games like I can't think of their names off the top of my head.
Like Seen It?
No, but it's like one is a Dungeons and Dragons game with a VCR with a VCR tape. That's
neat.
Really, it's a hard game.
I have a WWF VCR game.
Yes, you do. The games that I've always wanted, one of the ones I think that people have probably asked for the most, and I really want, is Fireball Island.
Oh, Fireball Island.
I desperately want that game.
I hate that game.
Yes,
you hate that game?
I haven't told you that story, have I?
No,
I was in a trivia contest, like one of those team trivia things, and they brought me in because I was the ringer for toys, right? And so it was an 80s trivia thing, and I was the ringer for toys, and they finally got to the toys question. And I got them all right, except the last question was about Fireball Island, and I'd never heard of it.
Oh,
and I was like,
it came along.
Fireball Island! And I was like, I'm going to go on eBay, and I'm going to buy one, and I'm going to burn it. And I went on eBay, and it was like, ooh, no, I'm not. No.
Yeah, because I think you were early teens when that game came out, weren't you?
Probably, something like that. Yeah, it was kind of a mid to late 80s kind of game.
We make fun of Dave, we give him crap for being the old guy. Dave really is the old guy on the panel. Dave,
nothing's wrong with that.
No, nothing's wrong with that.
I remember that Bigfoot game when it came out. And they had advertisers for it at shoe stores.
Oh, yeah?
And that was why I was like, it would look like the coolest game ever. I want to
come play my game, Dave.
And buy some shoes.
I didn't live close enough to the woods to be taken out to play his game.
But yeah, Fireball Island, especially since starting to do the show, I'm like, I want Fireball Island, and we've seen it at a toy show once.
We've been teased, I think twice. And one time both times they were expensive and incomplete.
Yeah. The guys wanted
that's a shame.
One guy wanted like $70 for it. It was missing pieces, and I'm like, the board was messed up, and I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to spend that kind of money, I'll just buy one that's pretty much nearly new for $200 and be done with it. That's something that'll eventually will make it on this show somewhere down the line.
One of these days.
One of these days, it will eventually.
We will track it down.
Yes, it will. It will eventually make it. Some questions from Alex McKay. For hi Dan, Deval, and Dave, and Puppet Devall.
Why are there so many questions?
Here comes some questions. Number one, what was your first ever board game that you owned? Do you remember?
Gosh, I can't remember back that far. Probably Candyland.
Yeah, probably Candyland. I mean...
Operation.
Or Shoots and Ladders. Shoots and Ladders is probably the one.
I had both of those, too. Shoots and Ladders and Operation, and I remember Hi-Ho Cheerio was one that I was really young. Candyland's got to be the first, though.
The first game I have a good memory of that I remember having very, very early on, beyond everything else, was in the early 70s, I guess, they made a Spider-Man game that was on a board, and it kind of looked like, those yarn boards where you have the nails that come up through it.
Yes.
It was kind of like that. The board was like that, and the Spider-Man had a string that came out, and you wrapped it around villains as you moved to the board.
Oh, neat.
And that was the first game I remember having.
That's crazy.
And I've seen that game a couple times, and it's an expensive game, but that's one that I remember that I had, one of the first ones I had when I was a child.
Sweet.
How many board games do each of you have in your collection? Well, we just talked about mine.
He's got
about
a lot.
300-400.
Yeah. I don't have a count. I have no idea. I've got several, and I've picked up more recently.
Yeah.
I mean, going to toy sales and stuff, sometimes I find cool ones. Like I bought myself the Spy vs. Spy game that we just reviewed. I bought one for myself because I thought it was cool.
Danny's like, I must have that.
The VCR WWF game is one of my recent purchases.
Yes.
Anytime I find a board game that's based on an old toy property that I like or an old video game that I like, I pick it up. And that's when I acquired like Donkey Kong and Cuber and Legend of Zelda. I'm still trying to get the Super Mario Brothers board game. I've been wanting that forever, and it's one of those ones that's always escaped me. But I don't know. I really can't count. I've got a closet full of them. Just so I can't, not as many as him, but I do have a closet full of them. I've never counted.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I am not as much of a board game guy as you two are.
You're more the role-playing.
I'm more the role-playing game guy. I've got like 2 bookcases full of role-playing game stuff.
Yeah.
Aside from the ones that I listed, because this started when we went to this one sale, this one guy, and he had like a basement full of board games.
Yeah.
And so, in addition to the ones that I rattled off, I have like the Jurassic Park game. I got my own copy, finally, of Raiders that someone stole from me.
At least you have it now.
Probably my weird prized possession that I love more than anything, and you actually helped me on this one, was the Columbo board game.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm a huge fan of Columbo, and it was like, we were at a toy show once, and they had the Columbo board game. I'm like, ah! And then I didn't get it, and so I was looking every show since then, and at one of the King Counties, like, there's a guy that's got the Columbo board game. I'm going to buy it.
That's
Dave's
awesome.
like, it's mine.
It's mine.
Favorite all-time board game?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough question. I don't know. You guys go ahead.
Talisman.
Talisman.
Love it.
My favorite all-time board game is probably Hero Quest.
I don't know, man. Like, when I think about board games, I'm not like, oh, it was so amazing, I had a bunch of board games and I played them when I was a kid, and I don't know. There's a lot of cool ones that I like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't pick a favorite. I don't have a favorite. I'm sorry.
It's like asking you when you have more children which one's your favorite.
Yeah,
You're like, I like them all.
It's just not that clear to me. Like, you ask me one of my favorite toys, I can name a favorite toy. I can't name a favorite board game. I can't. I'm sorry.
What was the first ever board game that you remember you and I playing? And what was the first game that you and I ever played together?
Have we ever played a board game
I don't think so. Dave and I still
I'm
have
not sure if you and I have ever played a board game together.
Not until this show.
Until we did Legend of Zelda on From Pixels to
Yeah,
Plastic.
Legend of Zelda was probably the first board game that you and I sat down to play.
It's not. We never really just sat down to play board games, I don't think. No. I mean, I do that with my wife a lot, and some of our friends that we go have dinner with, we do a lot of board game stuff now. But I don't think I've ever sat down to play a board game with you.
No, well...
Except for this show.
You know what? If you go back years ago, we were at a friend's house, and we all sat down. I wouldn't really call it a board game, but it's pretty much what we were doing. But we were doing Mad Libs.
We used to do Mad Libs. Well, I mean, I guess we did do some, game night kind of thing sometimes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Man, Legend of Zelda, we'll just say that.
Yeah, Legend of Zelda. I think, Dave, the first game you played with me was probably Shrieks and Creeks.
Probably, yeah.
On this show. Yeah, we like board games. We never play them. That's just the way it is. We like them. We just don't play them.
Which board game makes you jealous that the other person has? Well, we know what Dave's answer is, which he has already, but apparently I stole Indiana Jones from Dave.
So, well, okay. There were two versions. There was a Parker Brothers and there was a Kenner one. And the Kenner, Kenner made the Indiana Jones toys. And I was like, oh, and Jason grabbed it and ran for the door. shrieking like a happy child.
You have a G.I. Joe game that you stole from me that I wanted.
Actually, I literally stole that from him.
It's cutthroat going toy shopping.
It is. It can get ugly.
Yeah, you can't. There's no friends when you go toy shopping.
Not with the three of us.
Nope.
Slime Monster game, obviously,
Slime Monster
would
game.
be mine. I really want that game now.
You will get it someday, I'm sure.
One of these days.
One day. What is currently your most sought-after board game?
Yours is Fireball
Island.
Sought after. Oh, Super Mario Brothers.
I
would say that's probably the one, because that's the one that that's one of those things that's on my list where every now and then I'm checking online, I'm like, Super Mario Brothers board game. You know what I mean? I just always check to see if one is shown up online and it's a decent price, and that game never shows up online ever.
It's very rare.
Oh, it's so stupid.
I don't know that I have. You know, I'm not as big into board games as you guys are.
You looked for a long time for Dark Tower, though.
I did. Well, yeah, but I have it. But yeah, Dark Tower was one that I really wanted to get again. Because I just thought that was cool.
Yeah. Let's see. Dan, which board game piece hurt the most when I smacked, poked, aggressively tickled you with? I don't think I aggressively tickled you ever with it. But
that sounds weird.
Yeah, he says, hey, who knows what happens when the camera goes black. Dan never really got hit with anything.
They all hurt. They were terrible. Jason's a jerk.
I am. Awful. I know it hurts when Puppet Devall bites, but it doesn't, I never hit Dan with anything. So legally, I have to say that. There's a contract. So legally, I have to say that I never hit him with anything. He wants to know, how many times have I got you to say board game? Like 9, probably.
How many times I got you to say board game?
Yeah.
We probably said it 1,000,000 times in this video alone.
Yeah.
He says, I thank all 4 of you for providing me with the entertainment and showing me some pretty awesome games. I look forward to Season 2. Next game night is at my house, and I'll expect you all to be there. Yoda Soup out.
All right, because of your address, we're on our way.
It's Canada.
Let's go to Canada.
It's a long drive.
Better have some pancakes ready for me.
Ooh, pancakes.
With maple syrup.
Let's see. This one comes from Gary Voigt. He says, hey, Dan and Jason, my questions are, how did you two meet? How long have you been friends? And do you live close to each other? Love the show, guys. Peace. Gary G. Force Voigt.
We kind of talked about this a little bit already, but wrestling is the thing that kind of... We met because we were both doing the indie wrestler thing.
Yes.
I'm still doing the indie wrestler thing today, but that's how I met him. That's how I met all of my super close friends these days. Yep. So,
and then, of course, Dave came into the picture thanks to the It Figures podcast on Pop Culture Network early on. And that new voicemail, I brought him in.
Yeah, because I knew you from Toys R Us.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We don't live too far from you. We're both in Springfield. We're all in Springfield. If that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, we can drive around Springfield. It's not that big of a deal.
No.
How long has that been? Well, I guess I've been wrestling for 13 years, so I guess I've known Jason for 13 years now.
Going on 14.
And I've known Dave for however many years ago that was.
2009.
09?
Yeah.
Wow, it's been for
4 years.
while,
Yeah. So there's a long history between all of us. I mean, literally, you start adding up years and you're like, holy crap, we've been around each other a long time. Puppet Devall has been around for, well, you know. This one is from, I'm not sure, it's Chaotix12345, but his email address is something crazy.
Okay.
Hey guys, loving the show so far. Just being able to check my subscription box and find a new episode of Board Up every week really brings me back to the good old days of your previous Team Up shows a few years back.
What show's that? I've never even heard of it.
There's this awesome show we did. It was based on what happens when you open a toy package and you smell it.
That show sucked.
That show sucked. That was a horrible show. Really looking forward to seeing what you guys have planned for future season. Without further ado, here are my questions. Has there ever been a board game that you were attracted to as a kid but could never for the life of you figure out how to play? For example, when I was a kid, my family had a Pokemon Monopoly set that I always wanted to try out, but the mechanics of the game went completely over my head and I never really got that chance.
I can't think of anything specifically that I always felt was too hard. You know what I did though a lot as a kid, and I'm sure a lot of kids did this too, is they would pick up a board game because they thought the pieces were cool or they thought the game looked cool.
Yes.
And you would just play it however you wanted to play it. I specifically remember doing that with Stratego when I was a kid. Because my dad had Stratego.
Yep.
I didn't exactly know what I was doing, but all those cool little plastic pieces with the little soldiers on them were awesome.
You were like, I gotta have this. This looks neat.
And so I set them up the way I thought they were supposed to be set up, and then I played Stratego.
Yep.
So that's probably the best example I have.
I can't really think of one that I had as a kid that I didn't kind of went over my head. I mean, when I talk about HeroQuest a lot. When that came out, I was already in my my teenage years, so that was pretty easy to grasp onto. But I remember as a kid, we had like the DC superheroes role-playing game, and there was another one that you're really big into that we actually had. You have figures for it.
Shadowrun?
Shadowrun. We had a Shadowrun. Me and a friend had Shadowrun books, and we tried to figure out how to play those games and had no clue. Still to this day, there's lots of role-playing games that I look at and read the books and go, I have no idea.
Oh, yeah. During their heyday, that was almost like they were deliberately complicated and trying to put you off.
Well, the reason that I never got into any of the card games that were really popular, like Magic or the WWE card game or Pokemon even, is because I just straight don't understand card games. They don't make sense to me. And I remember sitting down trying to play Magic at some point. I've sat down and tried to play the WWF game when it was out, and I'm just like, don't get it. I don't know if my attention span's just not good enough or something like that, but I'm just like, whatever.
Dan just looks at the cards and goes, meh!
I fold.
Done.
That's what you do in this game, right?
Fold.
I fold.
Speaking of Monopoly sets, out of all the various franchises, shows, and brands that have gotten their own sets, which is your favorite? And if you were given a chance to make a new set based on an untouched brand, what would it be? That's all I've got for you guys. Keep up the fantastic work. So what is your favorite iteration of Monopoly that they've done?
I'll just be simple and say Star Wars.
You like Star Wars Monopoly?
I bought the first Star Wars Monopoly that ever came out. I still have it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. I love the little playing pieces of the Star Wars characters. I always used the Boba Fett because of the, but
he's like,
I'll just go with that. I've never bought any other version of Monopoly. No. I have regular Monopoly, I have Star Wars Monopoly, and that's it. I mean, I've never felt the need to keep buying Monopolies. Yeah. I've never been that guy. So
I don't think you don't have any.
I have the Star Wars Monopoly. I mean, everything that Dan said, I completely agree with. I've actually got the little Imperial coins that came with the game in my display.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Forgot about those.
Yeah.
I have a Disney Monopoly that I like a lot that's based on old artwork from the 30s. It's like it was for Mickey's 75th birthday, and it's really cool.
That is cool.
So it's all old images of Mickey and all the friends, so that one's really cool. I like that one a lot. But if there was one based on an untouched brand, I don't think there is anymore. I think they've touched just
possible.
about every license that's out there that they can do, they've done. Monopoly. There is no He-Man Monopoly.
I'd probably buy that one.
Danny would buy it, hug it, fall asleep with it.
Jurassic Park, maybe.
Jurassic Park would be cool.
That'd be a cool one.
That'd be a very cool one. This next one actually is from Josh Campbell. And he says, hey guys, love the show, looking forward to season 2, and I have 2 questions. One is mine and one is my wife. So the first one is, what in your opinion makes a great board game?
Well, honestly, for me, I've always been that nostalgia-driven guy. So there's something cool about a board game that's based on a property that I like, and I just instantly like it, even if it's a crappy game. I'm like, oh, this is just neat. It's something cool for the collection because, you know, it's got GoBots on it. Or whatever, something like that. I always like the weird aspects of stuff, too. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the gameplay. I like the box art on things, which is what we were kind of talking about earlier. Specifically, part of the reason why I like the older board games is because I think the boxes are far more interesting than the stuff we see in the stores now.
Yes, so, I agree.
Speaking as purely like a guy who buys these games and collects them and obviously doesn't play them very often, as we've found out, that's the stuff that I look for. I look for something that's based on something that I like, or if it just looks cool. That's what I'm after. Yeah.
I agree. I think what makes a great board game for me though is it has to be easy to pick up and play, and it has to last a while and be fun. I mean, we talk about GoBots was really easy to pick up and play, but the fact that it was over in 2 moves.
You would never play that game again.
No.
Yeah, that's
my wife Carrie and I, we play all these games before we film them for board, so we've sat down and played all these games, and I think the favorite one that I've had is one that was Dave's favorite of the show, was Prize Property. That was the most fun game to actually sit down and play.
That was a neat game.
Yeah.
That was fun. Shrieks and Creeks was a fun game to play.
Yes.
Yeah. And 13 Dead End Drive is a fun
game to play, yes.
That's one that I had as a kid, too.
Yes.
And that's actually a fun game. So, yeah, some of those games they're fun.
Yeah.
They're really cool.
What about you, David?
I'm kind of the opposite. If you look at the games that I really like and collect, I like the complicated strategy games that go on and on and on. I don't quite like that they go on and on and on forever. But, one that like kills an afternoon, a couple hours, has a lot of complicated elements. Not so complicated that you really can't, follow what's going on, but it takes a little bit of thinking, a little bit of planning, a little bit of strategy.
Strategery.
Stratego.
And then his wife, Adelaide, asked, of course, and we've talked about it at length, but she wanted to know what the history with Dan and the Puppet was that we referred to the videos. Of course, we talked a lot about that, but Dan, I think these days Dan doesn't really hate the puppet anymore.
It's a gag now.
Yeah,
and it's part of the show.
It's just part of the show.
Yeah.
Dan knows he has to deal with it. Oh no! You're gonna get bit. It's not gonna be pretty. It's okay. It's okay. No.
Bye, Jason.
No.
Bye. Come at me, bro. Next email.
What just happened?
You got ate by your own creation.
I got taken advantage of. I don't think I liked it.
Whoa.
Bad Puppet Devall. The next question comes from, let's see, Aaron Robinson wants to know, is Manny Fan 1977 wants to know, what was the point of Dave in episode 10?
What was the point of Dave? What kind of question is that?
That just hurt Dave's feelings.
Wow.
Look what you did to Dave. You just hurt Dave's feelings.
What you should be asking is,
ouch.
What is the point of Deval on this show? Because Dave's the brains of this operation. Deval's lucky we let him be on camera. Am I right, Dave?
Well, there's not a lot of competition, but
Yeah. I got your back.
Ow.
I got your back.
Wow.
That was not nice, man.
Thanks.
Not nice.
I think the question was...
For the record, I was invited. It's not like I lobbied to be on the episode.
Yeah, well...
I think the question was meant to be worded a little differently, but we...
I guess.
What was the point of Dave in episode 10?
We had always talked about having a guest star every season, so someone from either within the circle of people that we know that would be fun to have on, or, someone from just somebody on the show that wasn't Dan and I, at least one episode, so we could do a little bit different thing. And having Dave on the finale was kind of always the plan. We had always planned on having Dave on the Halloween episode because it plays so well, and we joke a lot. We've done it in the past. We've done it on our podcast, Dave and Deval, the fact that, we always make fun of that Dave's older, and the fact that we always used to joke that he would chase you off his lawn with a rake for $5.
Yeah.
We made the joke about how he chased kids, so it worked in perfect with Halloween and kind of that running gag between us anyway, that we would, I would be sending Danny to Dave's house to get him before he could apparently destroy children's lives and chase them.
Also, did you actually not watch the episode? Dave wasn't in it. Yeah. That was Puppet Devall playing a trick on us.
That's right.
Yeah,
it was Puppet Devall.
Was him the whole time
using his weird puppet magic, which I still don't understand how it works. Where do the lights come from? I don't understand. So bright.
It's those lights.
It's those lights over here. And he wants to know, why did we change clothes? And that actually goes back to something we talked about early on.
I don't know what you're talking about. When did we change clothes? These questions are weird. You're crazy.
Completely my fault, but Danny actually saved that whole episode because we taped the whole gameplay episode, and at the end of it was the last thing we taped that day. And right before that, we had taped something else. It was the last thing we taped. We never changed our shirts back.
Yeah.
We were still wearing them from the previous thing we had recorded.
Yeah.
And at the very end of that, I remember looking down at the table with Danny after we'd finished and looking down and going, great. And Dan going, what? I'm like, look at your shirt. And it was like, not the right shirts, are they? I'm like, not at all. And Danny actually brought up the idea, and it's like, it's the Halloween episode. Look, Puppet Devall's wreaking havoc, so why not just not point it out and be like, it's Halloween, this stuff happens.
We had been spent all day shooting, and I was just like, we do not want to do that whole thing over again.
No, and that whole, with the dropping of the game and everything, that was all one take, so it's like, we didn't want to do that again. and hope and pray that we were going to come up with that same
we already ran into issues with like the tape not playing when we wanted to. Like, remember we kept going into rooms where the tape wasn't playing ghosts.
Aww.
And we're like, this room doesn't have a ghost either. Are there any ghosts in this house? Because we're not finding them.
Why aren't there any ghosts in this house?
Yeah, so that just worked out that way. It happens
sometimes.
Oh
man.
I wanted to keep acting like I had no idea what people were talking about.
You're like, what?
Why did your shirts change? You're out of your mind.
We actually have that's it for the fan questions. We actually have some awesome fan art.
Artwork. I love fan art.
This one was sent to us by Avery, and he says, "I made some fan art and love your channel. I'm a 6th grader and love playing board games.
Awesome.
Thanks for the videos."
Very cool.
And Avery actually did this awesome drawing of us, Danny and myself, and Dan's got a Pizza Time shirt on.
Yeah, Pizza Time.
My hat's got Under the Sea on it. I got a little mermaid figure in my hand.
Yeah, Under the Sea is... You need a hat that just says Under the Sea on it.
I do.
With a bill that's like sideways.
Yes,
like
the puppet's riding the dice from the board logo.
Did you rip the bottom of your shirt?
I did. I ripped the bottom of my shirt. My shirt's got a No Bigfoot sign.
No Bigfoot.
Which is awesome. And it's awesome fan work. I love that, we have a 6th grader sitting in artwork. It's awesome.
That's fantastic.
So thank you very much, Avery. That's so cool. We love seeing that. And then the next little bit of board fan art is from our friends Ben's Toy Bin.
Yeah.
John and Ben, who are fellow reviewers online.
Absolutely.
The email says, "Hey, it's John from Ben's Toy Bin with some Looney Tunes inspired fan art for the special episode of Board, featuring the whole group. I hope you like it. P.S. Can we get a shout out from Bigfoot in the video?"
Hey, Ben's Toy Bin! Come play some board games with us. Bring your kids.
Don't bring your kids. I think Bigfoot did. Even Puppet Devall says don't bring your kids. And he's kind of shaky.
But I need the kids.
No. The fan art's great though because it's
that is awesome.
It's Puppet Devall. It's me and you. It is very much Looney Tunes inspired. I love your hair. Your hair is just like zoom.
That's totally my hair.
It is totally your hair.
Bigfoot's a little too close to us. He's getting a little cuddled up there.
He's got his hands on our shoulders. Dan's got a little trophy that says Dan is #1.
And the board game is obviously just Monopoly.
What would the spaces on that be? Would you instead of pass and go to collect $200, you'd like pass Pixel Dan's house, take all his toys?
Why did you take all my toys? That's not the equivalent of $200.
Instead of going directly to jail, it'd be like go into the woods with Bigfoot.
Yeah, for sure.
Welcome to the woods.
No,
you're stuck here.
How do you get out of jail? There's no get out of jail card. God, no.
Congratulations, you rolled doubles. Did you bring your kids?
That's okay. We'll just make some here.
Wow.
Make some kids.
Whoa.
Bigfoot's got devious plans.
You took Bigfoot to the new level, dude. That's over the line. You crossed.
Well, technically, it wasn't Bigfoot.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I like Puppet Devall though. He looks so angry. Yeah. Why are you so mad?
Why are you so mad?
What are you so angry about?
Because the board game is just Monopoly. That's why he's mad.
Because you had to give us Monopoly after we said we were going to play Monopoly. Yeah. You were like, Monopoly sucks. I hate it.
That's funny. That's awesome. That's cool.
Great. Thank you very much for the fan art. I love it.
Thanks, guys.
That's spectacular. I want to get that on a shirt now. That's great.
That's great.
I love it. Hey guys, it's Deval and Pixel Dan. This is probably kind of jarring considering you were just watching us in different shirts and stuff. That's happened before, right?
Time travel.
So we had a few last minute questions and decided, since this guy's stupid busy all the time.
Who?
I don't know who I'm talking about.
When am I busy?
The dog down here.
I don't do anything.
Your dog's busy all the time.
She is. Look how busy she is right now.
Laying there doing stuff.
So busy sleeping.
Kicking her legs up like a little teenage girl. It's ridiculous. But we wanted to reveal the winners of the Wacky Wizard contest for board, and we had a few more questions to answer from our good viewers. So
Sweet.
We'll start with reading it off the phone, if anyone's wondering there. Just high tech here at board.
That is high tech.
How we roll.
Smartphones.
This one comes from David Wall. He says, "Hey guys, I'm no artist, so I guess I'll stick to questions. I tried to get my daughter to draw something with me, but convincing a 6-year-old to do anything is kind of iffy. We've been playing a lot of Life lately. She'd rather play that than draw. One thought before the questions. It seems like a lot of the games you cover are kind of gimmicky or kind of fun for a single playthrough. I'm fascinated by the variety of games out there, but to me the more popular games are more fun to play over and over again. I'm a bit bummed that I took most of the board games we had to Goodwill when we moved. We had an interesting Titanic game that might have been good for the show." I think that's kind of our thing, is that while some of the quirky games we have are really seem like they're single playthrough and that's it, they are a lot of fun to actually revisit multiple times. I know Bigfoot's a game that you could revisit many times.
Some of them are, I think so. But, I mean, we talked about that in the last questions, too, that it is very gimmicky, but I think that's part of what makes this show kind of fun, is showing off these weird, random, gimmicky games that you don't see every day, or that you probably wouldn't pick up to play over and over.
Exactly. He says, are you guys making a living off your various YouTube videos and websites, or do you have a real job? And if yes, man, that's so cool. Well, I think this guy's closer to making a living off doing this kind of stuff than... Let's put it this way. Dan's work ethic is parallel to no one. He is the top of the heap, and I don't think anyone will ever be able to touch him in his work ethic.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And that is a major compliment.
It is. It really is a compliment.
Blushing?
I appreciate it. Yeah. I consider everything I do for pixeldan.com and my YouTube channel a full-time job. So I have 2 full-time jobs because I still work during the day at a desk job. But at this point, I'm more doing that because insurance purposes, and you get lots of benefits from having a job like that. When I make the full switch to an independent person, I'm gonna have to pay for a lot of that stuff on my own.
Oh, yes.
And right now, I mean, family-wise, I know we're getting kind of personal, I guess, but family-wise, I'm transitioning into doing this family thing. I have
little early on the way.
My son is on the way here, and he'll be here in January, and it's one of those things where we want to make sure that we're stable here in the home before we make any big changes. That's
a huge change.
It is a huge change, and I've been building slowly but surely into transitioning to being a fully independent, work for myself kind of job. And I could probably do it now. Honestly, I'm just not, because
right.
I prefer to have a little bit of stability and everything. And honestly, I want to be perfect. I'm just that's the type of person I am. I don't want to do it too soon. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it till it's right, till the timing is right. But yes, I mean, like, it's all about working freaking hard at this. If you really have the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? You really have to have the passion to put into it, to want to do this, to make a living out of it. You absolutely can make a living out of it. You just got to do it the right way. You got to find the right ways to do it. You got to find what works, and you got to work your butt off.
And I think part of it is you have to find the right hook too.
You do. You really
There's a
do.
lot of we have mutual friends at Ben's Toy Bin, and they found a hook by doing My Little Pony and stuff, and they made it to over 50,000 subscribers in less than a year.
You have to find the right combination, the beautiful marriage of finding what works and also being passionate about it, because you can't do one or the other. You have to be passionate and be willing to put in the work, but at the same time you also just have to find the thing that clicks, the right thing for you. And that's really the key to the whole thing.
And then the audience will come.
Exactly.
And then as for me, toyworldorder.com is just for right now, I mean, the site does make some money, but for the most part, I just enjoy what I'm doing. I'm not looking to make it a full-time job. I enjoy it as a kind of a part-time hobby.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got a lot of ideas for stuff that is taken a long time to implement. I mean, Board took 2 years to bring to life. So
it's a lot of work. And the other thing that a lot of people probably don't realize is, the more that you do transition this into being a business, the more money you do have to pay for things. It's not necessarily free what I'm doing. I pay a lot of money to a lot of different people for a lot of different things. I have to buy equipment constantly. I have to pay for equipment. I have to pay for, all kinds of stuff. People to do graphics for me.
Bumpers,
people to do
all that stuff,
animations for me. People to do music for me. It's a professional thing, and these people are all also making livings doing what they're doing, so it's all part of the system, and it's one of those things you have to realize. If you want to make this your business, you have to treat it like a business, which means you got to spend money to make money.
That's right. Very true. And he says, ever thought of having an episode where you play the board game and then a video game version of the same game? The downside is you'd be playing this a well-known common game. The upside is I'd get to see more of the main machine that Deval has. I love how you cover unique games and find it hilarious that Deval never wins. Thanks, David.
That's actually a really funny idea, but I guess that would only really work for Because there are a lot of board games that are based on video games.
Yes.
Which we have talked about already, and stuff that I have
Yes.
covered before. But that could be fun. I don't know. Maybe at some point we can do something like that.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's something to work for.
That could be neat.
This one comes from Chris Larson. And he says, thanks for bringing back old games from my youth. I used to have Subsearch and Prize Property, and they were fun games.
Wow.
But you guys don't look old enough to have been around at the time. How did you get interested in these great old games? By the way, I still have my copy of King Oil. Is that on your list for future videos? I'll answer the last question first. Yes.
King Oil?
King Oil.
I've never heard of that.
I have it. It's at home.
Oh, nice.
Yep, it's at home. How did we get interested? Are we old enough? Well, I'm 36 and Danny is 31. And I was going to say 32, but I knew I was off by a year. Yep,
I'm getting
pretty close.
Yep.
So, no, not for those games particularly, because those were 70s, 77, 75. But I think the interest came from those odd games just because they're odd games. There's so many games out there that people don't realize were ever made, that people don't realize exist, that are actually really quirky, fun, crazy games that I think people need to know exists. I mean, there's a lot of board game collectors out there that know this old stuff exists, but common public, they have no clue. So when we show off a game like Prize Property or Subsearch or something crazy and kooky like that, it makes people go, I didn't know that existed. That's kind of neat looking. And make like Bigfoot. I didn't know Bigfoot existed until we found it for the show. And
it was
like, holy crap.
Right.
This is awesome.
Well, it's another one of those things, too, where, like, when you decide that you want to do videos on a certain topic like toys or board games, you oftentimes end up diving down a rabbit hole head first.
Oh, God.
Because you're like, because that's when we start discovering all this stuff too. Like we might have had the idea to talk about some cool board games that were based on some vintage toy lines that we love, and all of a sudden we start discovering things like Subsearch and these other games. And the more into it we get, the more board games Jason starts buying and piling up, and the more toys I start buying and piling up. You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where, like, we're figuring out about it because of our interest in the topic. And then as we learn about it, we pass the knowledge on to you guys.
Couple hundred games in the Deval household right now, maybe more. I lost count.
It's hilarious.
Pretty crazy. Stacks of games everywhere. So thank you, Chris. And this last one comes from Adam Ernest. And he says, hey guys, let me start by saying that I love your show, and I've been bored without it. See what he did there? He spelled bored, B-O-E. I have a few questions for you. I've recently bought the Land of the Lost figures from Tiger Toys from '92 that are mint on card, which, awesome line. It's a fun, quirky line.
I remember that.
Hold on. There we go.
Everything
turned sideways. It was crazy. Now, I would normally open them and display them loose, but the cards are in really good condition, and I want to keep them on the card. How is the best way to display them on the card, and have either of you had a problem with the cardboard hanging tab tearing off? I do have a few mint on card figures, two Masters Universe Classics figures on card that are both in clamshell cases from Zola World that I bought on this guy's, Pixel Dan's, recommendation. So I don't have a problem with them. The Land of the Lost figures that I have, let's see, Annie Porter, Kevin Porter, Stink, and Shung, the tab on the Stink figure fell off. Feels like it could tear off. So, well, I think Michael Zolo actually does in Zola World make cases that will fit those figures.
What scale are those? Are those 3¾ inch?
No, those are like almost 4-inch, 5-inch scale.
5-inch
They're
scale.
on kind of weird cards.
Like, I would definitely keep an eye on Zolo World if you haven't already looked for these, because Mike has been really good about making all different sizes of cases to fit all these vintage lines, because he likes all the vintage stuff too, and he deals in that the vintage toy market. So a lot of the stuff he tries to make, he makes it universally fitting. So like he'll have certain ones that fit all 4-inch lines, certain ones that, so I don't know exactly what he's got available right now, but if you haven't checked, definitely check there. Because the clamshell cases like that are the best way to really kind of display that stuff if you're worried about them bending or tearing or anything like that. Otherwise, a lot of times, the stuff that I do keep mint on card, if I don't have clamshell cases for them, if I've got a blank wall or something, I usually will just kind of tack them up to a wall, but I know you said that your hang tab tore on the one, so that can cause a problem. So
and you could always, if you bought from Zola World before, you can always email him and ask him if he has cases that will fit that style. He'll know exactly what you're talking about, and he'll be able to point you in the right direction on the site on what case that you need to buy. So he'll even give you a product number and everything. So that's probably your best bet. And he says, my last question is for Deval. I was at a thrift store that was closing and everything in the store was 70% off. Now, I normally don't look at the books, but being that everything was 70% off, I decided to look to see what they had. And what I saw was they had some Disney kids books. When I took a closer look at them, they were all from the same set and were in really nice condition. Only 2 of them have writing on the cover. None of them have any writing on the inside. Normally the books were $1, but on sale they were like 10 cents, so I bought all 11 of them. The set they are a part of is called Disney's Small World Library and do not have a copyright, so I don't know where they're from. I've looked for info on the web and I could not find any info for them. I was hoping you would know something about like how many there are. The ones I have are India, A Very Special New Year, USA, Junior Woodchuck, Jamboree, Great Britain, The Castle Ghost, Italy Goofy, and The Gondola, Sweden, Lapland Friends, Switzerland Goofy Takes Off, France Painting the Town, Scotland Donald, and the Loch Ness Monster, Neverland's Donald, and the Big Cheese, Mexico Donald's Fantastic Fiesta, and Australia Mickey and Goofy Down Under. I'm hoping that you can help me with this problem of mine. I think they're the older due to the artwork, but I'm not sure. Thanks, Deval. I've seen all the episodes of Flea Market Finds and Collection Expansion Extravaganza. With your show, you show all the cool kids' books that you find, and I would not know anything about them. I'm glad that I did. It gives me something else Disney to collect besides Disney records, and anytime I can add more Disney to my collection, makes me happy. When I say I collect Disney records, I don't mean a few. I mean that I'm trying to collect a full set of Disney records. I feel really a ton of them now have to keep the 17-gallon tote that is full of just the albums. Thanks for reading my email. Sorry it was a long one. Thanks for the help, guys. Adam Ernest. Adam, those are actually part of, in the late 70s, early 80s, most supermarkets you went into, they would have a large display of, they would sell like knives every week or like kids' books every week. Those were actually something that you could go into a supermarket every week and buy a new book. Knives and kids' books. That's a new Bigfoot phrase, I think.
Oh, no.
Knives and kids' books.
Knives and kids' books.
But you could go into like an Aldi's or a Kroger, and every week they'd have a new book that you could purchase, so a new one would come out for however many weeks. So that's where those came from. They weren't available in retail stores, but they were available in grocery stores. I think they were like $1.99 with a purchase of certain product or something like that.
Sweet.
So I have a number of those type of books that were from that type of promotion. So they're kind of neat to collect if you can find them. They're kind of fun, but they are kind of kooky because it's like you've got all these different continents of books and you're like, none of these make any sense. I don't understand.
Oh,
so
weird.
Now we did promise winners.
All right.
For the Wacky Wizard games, and the 4 winners that we've chosen. Adam Ernest.
Hey, this guy's just emailed us.
I know, right?
Good job, Adam.
There you go.
Congrats.
Aaron Robinson, Gary Voigt, and our little buddy Avery, who sent us the awesome fan art. So congratulations to the 4 of you.
Guys.
Once again, Adam Ernest, Aaron Robinson, Gary Voigt, and Avery. You guys have won a copy of Wacky Wizard, and I will be emailing you within the next week, and we'll be shipping those out probably at the first of the year. I don't really want to risk shipping them out at Christmas time because bad things tend to happen at Christmas time.
Shipping is crazy right now, too, anyway.
We will be shipping those out the first of the year, around January, so be sure to look for them. But I'll be sure to email you guys and give you all the details and get your addresses. So
awesome.
Congratulations to you guys for winning
everybody.
that. And Dan and I are going to send you now back to our past selves.
Oh.
And Dave.
Back in time.
Past selves and Dave. I don't know if this is going to work. Well, there you go, guys. That wraps up the episode here, the fan episode. Hope you guys enjoyed kind of a look behind the scenes, what it takes to make the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, I want to thank Mr. Dave Draper for being here pretty much every episode we filmed, working the puppet, helping out behind the scenes a lot. A lot of the jokes in the show, to a degree, come from Dave's mind. So a lot of the cold openings in season 2 are coming out of this man's head. So he's done a lot of work to go. You know what we could do?
Well, so we're not going to just do it all on the fly this time.
No,
we have a plan.
There's a plan. Dave has come up with a number of cold openings that make me go, yeah, we're doing that. So thank you, Dave, and of course thanks to Puppet Devall here. Good old Puppet Devall. And of course, thanks to the... You all right there, dude? Because your hand's here. There you go.
Broke his little arm.
Broke his little arm. Sorry, dude. And of course, special thanks to my co-executive producer and co-host, the one and only Pixel Dan Erdley. Thank you very much, sir, for being a part of the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having. This is awesome. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I hope you guys enjoyed this look and just the 3 of us just sitting here chatting, having fun about the show. We'll be back on December 15th. is you'll be watching this, of course, December 14th. Right. Sorry, not on a Sunday, December 14th. And then there will be a special Christmas episode of Board on the 21st. So just in time for the holiday weekend, you'll have a special Christmas episode of Board to watch. As long as this guy's time, like, we may just have to kidnap him one night and be like, you're doing it.
You got to do it. There's too much to going on.
No. And then, of course, Board Season 2, as of right now, the plan is to come back in March sometime. Of course, Dan having a baby on the way in January, kind of messing with some things, but of course we'll work around it, and that's more important than the show. But the show will be back. We can promise you that this isn't a one season and we're done. We are coming back because we really did enjoy doing this show.
And he's got a billion board games, so we have to do more.
There's got to be a reason for the wife why I have all these board games, because if not, I get in trouble, and I don't want to be in trouble. That's horrible. So season 2 should start up in the spring of 2014, so a little bit of a wait, but I'm sure in between then we'll have some special little shorts maybe here and there that we'll film, just some fun little things to kind of keep you guys tided over on board. But don't wait for season 2. Don't wait for another one of these shows. If you guys have fan art, if you have more questions, if you have stuff that you'd like to see us play, by all means, if you want to keep Dan awake, send those emails to board@toyworldorder.com. Like I said, don't wait for the show. Don't wait for season 2. We may eventually read questions on the actual board show if we get enough of them. So that may be something. So don't hesitate. Send those questions to us. Send them to board@toyworldorder.com. And for everybody here, gang, thank you very much for watching the show. Thank you for making Board a success. The first season has been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. And I see the views and the fans getting more excited as more people discover the show. You see more and more people get excited. And there's only better things in the horizon. There's only better things coming. So make sure you tune in. And gang, until next time, take care. Bye, Puppet Devall. Yeah. Aww.